Hi, and welcome back to Craft Along with Jay. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Yetta, and I am so happy you could join me today. Today, I got four romantic, shabby chic Valentine's decor um, DIYs for you. And this is part of the I Can't Sleep Creations collaboration hosted by Monica from Up All Night and Dawn from Shabby Meets Bling. And don't forget, there's a playlist down in my description box, so make sure you check that out. All right, so here for project number one, I got this wood heart from the Dollar Tree. First thing I'm doing is taking off the hanger, and I am going to save it. And then I am going to make a line diagonally. I do end up changing that, but this was my first thought of what I wanted to do with my heart. So I'm just kind of laying out my ruler and then kind of figuring out where I want to place my line. And then I'm going to go ahead with my pencil and draw the line. And then the top part, I was gonna paint with plaster, it's a chalk paint, and then folk art in ballet pink. As you'll see in a second, I didn't do that. I made a line across instead and did the top part plaster and then the bottom ballet pink. And the bottom has only gotten one coat so far, so you can see a little bit of a line, but we're gonna give it a second coat here in a little bit. I have this roses stencil that I want to use on the top half of my heart on the white part, and I'm going to use some texture. Is it texture paint? It's this one. Oh, paste, texture paste. I'm going to use, and I'm going to add that on top of my stencil with a squeegee. And here I'm going to show you here in a second, just like this. And I'm going to do that whole thing, and then I'm going to move it over and do the other part of um, the white part of the heart that we haven't done yet. So that whole white part will be textured with roses, and it ends up looking so pretty. I really love how that looks. So I'm just going to give it a nice good coat here. This is so easy to do. There's like no bleeding. You can't do this wrong at all. Trust me. I would be the one to do it if it could happen. So here I'm going to lift it up very carefully because it is still wet. And I'm going to let this dry before I go over and do the other side. Just so if I put my hand down, I'm not smearing it out or anything like that. So here you can kind of see it. You see the little roses and the leaves. It is beautiful. I love it. And then you can see there's a little bit that went over the edge, and that's okay because it's still wet. So just with my finger, I'm just gonna kind of wipe it downward to get it off. And that's very easy to do. And you want to do this before it dries. And here I've done the whole top part and it's all dry. And I'm gonna go in with this lace ribbon that I got from, it's either Dollar Tree or Walmart, I can't remember. And I'm just going to add that right across where the white and the pink meets. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue and go along that line and then lay down my lace so it's covering part of the pink part of the heart. And then when I get all the way across here, I'm just going to use my scissors or cut straight along the edge of the heart. I don't want anything bending over towards the back. And then I got these pretty flowers from, I believe it's Timu. I got a couple of years ago. And I thought that went so well with the theme and the color scheme right here. So I am going to cut a couple of pieces off of here of this pig. And I'm just choosing three different colors. So there's a big one and two of the smaller ones. And I'm also going to cut a little bit of the greenery and some, I think it's baby's breath that's on there as well. And I'm just going to play around with the placement of them. And I'm going to cut, and we're cutting more of the back part off of the stem till I can kind of get it laying the way I want it to lay down. on my heart. And you're just going to play around with it till you get the look that you want, and then before you commit to it and add the hot glue. Because then if you got to take it back off, it's just a mess. So yeah, it's best to kind of play with the placement first before adding them. And then once you kind of got that the way you want it, then you just add some hot glue to the back of the flowers and then place them back down. And eventually I'll get to that point. Oh, I'm still cutting. All right, we'll get there. There's the first one. And I'm adding a little bit more hot glue to the back part just to make sure it's down nice and secure. And then I'll add my other flowers. I think. Okay, here we go. Yep, we're gonna get the two smaller ones. And I may have to lift up some of the little flower leaves on the other ones to kind of have them lay snug up against each other. And then I'm going in with a little bit of baby's breath and then a little bit of the greenery. I'm just kind of playing around with it first before I add the hot glue. And then when I'm happy with the placement, then we're going to add just a little bit to the tip and secure it in between the flowers. Here I'm trying to figure out if I want to add some more, but yeah, I'm kind of happy with how it looks. Then I got this little wood cutout that says you and me. And I'm going to paint that with Waverly's chalk paint and plaster. And then once I've done that, I have cut 6 pieces each of the lace and the ivory and the pink kind of satin-like ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree. And I've dovetailed each end. And I'm going to go ahead and make a messy bow with that. So I'm just kind of laying them down crisscross and straight across till I have all the pieces used. And then I'm going to cut another piece of the ivory colored ribbon, but it's a little bit too wide, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. So that way it's about half the size in width, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that all the way up to the top. And then I'm going to get it up under. I should probably have started from the top and then work the pieces to the back because I do want to tie it. Yeah, here I'm trying to figure it out. Well, wait, I want to tie it in the back, not the front. So I'm going to have to lift it up and then move the ribbon towards the back so I can tie it in the back. It would have been easier if I laid it down at the top, turned it around, and then pulled it up, but lesson learned. So here I'm just going to do a double knot in the back. And once I've done that, I'm just going to go ahead and fluff them out a little bit. And then I'm going to figure out where on my heart I want to place it. And I'm kind of playing around with different positions in there. I knew I wanted it there, I just didn't quite know where. So, so that's kind of what I'm working out here. And I found a good spot for it up there. And then what do I do? Oh, then I decided the saying down there, you and me, was a little too plain. So I'm going in with this metallic paint. It's a what did it say? White pearl or something. It has like a nice sheer to it, like you would see in a pearl. And I'm painting that onto my sign instead. And I like how that turned out much better. Definitely gave it a little bit more shabby look to it. And I just went over top of the plaster paint that we have on there. And then here I've just attached some of that ivory satin ribbon for a hanger, and I've added hot glue to it. And then here I'm going back with some masking tape to go over where the hot glue is, just to give it a little extra security so it won't like come undone in the back. This is definitely going to hold it well. But the sign is not heavy at all. And that is what it looks like. Let me know down in the comments section what you think about this one. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I think it's absolutely cute. Okay, for project number two, I'm gonna go ahead and make some of these little roses in this silicone mold, and I'm making two of each. They're different sizes, and they're all roses. And I've already kind of conditioned my mold with some baking soda, and this just helps um, when I have to get the clay out of the mold so it's less sticky. And these come out beautifully. And here I'm just making sure that I'm pressing down my clay really well because I want all the details of the roses to show. So I'm making sure that it gets down nice and secure all the way to the edge, and then I'm kind of smoothing it over just to get the excess off. And like I said, I'm making two of each, and I use all of them except for one. And you'll see in a second when I take them out, they come out easy. There we go. There's the first batch, and here they all are. And I also made a little bow, and that's the one we're going to put onto our little terracotta pot first. And I'm doing this while it's still wet because I do need to mold it to the terracotta pot because it's not flat. It has a rounded surface to it, so it's best to do it when the clay is wet so you can kind of mold it onto it. And I'm just using some Type Bond multi-surface glue to put on the back of my clay to add to the terracotta pot. And as you can see, my little bow broke, but it's fine. Um, it is so easy to piece back together, so that's what I'm working on right here. And then you can't even tell that it broke at all. It looks like it's still just one piece. And then, and yeah, I'm just molding it to my terracotta pot. And I'm just using a little dry brush right here to wipe off the excess of glue that kind of seep out underneath. And then I'm just working on my placement, and then I'll start adding my roses all the way around my terracotta pot. And I'm kind of like putting it on the pot first just to see where I want it and if I like the placement before I add the glue and add it onto the flower pot. Then once I've done that, I let it sit overnight to dry, and it is not coming off. It is on there. This is some really good glue. Multi-surface glue by Type Bond. Excellent. And here I'm still working with my placement of my roses. And this is the next day. I'm going to go in with Faux Guards Ballet Pink, and I'm going to paint the surface and the clay. I'm going to give it all two coats. And I'm just using a small brush for the first coat just because I need to get around and into the creases of the roses, and then also into the creases when I start painting on top of them. And a small brush is just better for that. And I believe when I did the second coat, I used a slightly larger brush just because I didn't have to focus so much on the edges and the crevices because the small brush had already taken care of that. So that's what I'm working on here. This is the first coat. And I let it dry completely in between the coats. Um, and while that's drying, I got this, it's a foam Easter egg from the Dollar Tree that I had in my stash. And I have these ivory colored roses, foam roses from the Dollar Tree as well. And I'm going to start hot gluing them onto this egg. And I'm starting on one side and then the other side. And then I'm going to go up and around. So I'm not kind of putting them on randomly. I'm kind of going with a pattern here because I want the whole egg to be covered. And I think I ended up using, is it 3 bags of the large ones? And I was short just one, but then I had some smaller ones, and I used 3 of those to cover for the placement of one large rose. So it all worked out. I had just enough because at my Dollar Tree, I haven't seen the ivory colored this year so far. I've seen the red and the pink ones. They may get them later, I don't know, but when I was doing this, they did not. So uh, I kind of lucked out that I had some of the smaller ones in my stash. And I'm just using some hot glue to the bottom of the roses, and I just keep on working. Yeah, I had to pull out some more. And I just hold them there for a second just to make sure they um, adhere to the foam egg. And then you can kind of see after I put this one on that I have a little bit of a gap, and that's why I put the three smaller ones. All right, so now we're on back to the terracotta pot, and I'm going to take some of Waverly's chalk paint and plaster, and I'm going to do a chippy brush and just slightly dip it into the paint, and then dab off a little bit on my paper towel here, and I'm just going to dry brush over the roses, and this will kind of pull out the details of them, which are absolutely gorgeous. And I do the same thing on my bow. And then once I've done all the flowers, all the roses, I'm going to go ahead and give the terracotta pot itself a dry brushing of the plaster. And if I got a little too much in any areas, I would just go in with my paper towel and just wipe it back. And it ended up looking really nice. I like how that turned out. So I didn't go too heavy. I just did enough so you can tell. And then I got my little roses there on top. And that's it for this one. I really like how this one turned out. Let me know down in the comment section what you think about this one as well. But I think it turned out really cute. All right, so let's move on to project number 3. I got this a ceramic, um, what is it, little tray or dish. And I'm going to go ahead and paint that with Vintage Tea Rose by Folk Art. And I'm going to give it 2 coats all the way around top, bottom, and the sides. And this ceramic tray has like a really nice surface to it, so the paint adheres really well. So, but it still takes 2 coats to get a nice coverage. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint this little wooden heart from the Dollar Tree as well with the same vintage tea rose paint. And I'm just giving it 1 coat. And then I'm going to let that dry as well. Then I'm going to give my little tray a coat of Mod Podge. And this will probably work better if you have enough time to let it dry for quite some time. Not just like it's just dry to the touch, because I'm having a little bit of issues with that, but I was kind of running out of time. So it was dry, but I don't think I let it sit long enough. But you'll see that in a second. Here I cut a piece of my um, lace ribbon, and I'm going to cut a piece of this pink satin ribbon as well. And I'm going to do it the same length because I'm going to glue the pink ribbon to the middle of the lace ribbon on top, as you'll see right here. I'm going to lay down, and then I'm just going to add some hot glue all the way across and have that attached into the middle. So it looks like that. And then I'm going to uh, get that around my candle, and I'm just going to use, this is an LED candle. It needs batteries and stuff, not a real candle. And I'm just doing a tiny dot of glue, and then I'm going to wrap it around, and then I'm going to give it a dab of glue on top of the ribbon and lay it on top so it has barely any glue on the candle itself. So if I ever want to switch it out. It's very easy to do. And I'm just making sure that it's straight all the way around. And then I'm going to go in and make a little simple shoelace bow with the pink satin ribbon. And I'm going to glue that to the front of the candle, just like so. Just a little dab of glue. And I'm going to fluff up my little bow on each side. Gonna have to use my pinky. That's the finger that would fit through and not get stuck. And then I got these rub-on transfers. I just got these from Amazon and they are absolutely gorgeous. So I'm just looking for the right ones to use. I had some ideas of which ones. I was just trying to determine for sure which one to use for my tray, but they are all beautiful. So it was between these two right here, but I ended up using the one in my left hand. Yep, that one. And then I'm just going to cut them all out so I can piece them together on my tray. And I'm starting with the big piece. And I'm just cutting a little bit closer into it so that way I kind of, when I lay it down, I kind of know how much space I need for it. Because I want to make sure I know before I put it down what I want to do. So here's when I run into the issue with my Mod Podge that it felt dry to the touch, but I think it just needed a whole lot more time to cure, if that makes sense. Because here when I'm pulling it up, I'm pulling a little bit of the paint off. Not much, but just a little bit. And it was actually around the flowers, so it didn't really look bad. If it's something that bothers you, you can go in and touch up with a fine tip brush and just paint it again. But the more I looked at it, the more I kind of liked it. So I left it alone because I liked the look of it. So for me, it all worked out just fine. But I'm just saying, give the Mod Podge some time. Don't rush it like I did. So here I'm just going in with another piece and just playing around with the placement and cutting some more of the leaves off because it was a little bit too much and it was just going everywhere. So I had to kind of cut a little bit more off. But it all worked out. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm just kind of placing my candle down and see how it looks, if I need to add something else. So here at the front, I decided to do one of the smaller roses, like so. And then I'm going to go with a coat of Mod Podge on top to seal it in. And I gave it plenty of time this time. And this is what it looks like. I think it's darling. And here it is with the candle on. So yeah, let me know what you think about this one as well. I think it's adorable. So on to the last project, project number 4. This one is super quick. I have this little wooden heart from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to give that a coat with the color plaster from Waverly's Chalk Paint. And then I have this little interconnected hearts right here, and I'm going to paint that with Ballet Pink by Folk Art, and I'm just going to give that one coat. And I gave the heart only one coat of paint as well. And here I'm just using a fine tip brush as well because I don't want the sides painted. I just the top surface. And then once the paint is dry in my heart, I'm going to go in with some Elmer's School Glue from the glue stick here, the purple one. I'm going to give it a nice good coat of glue, especially around the edges. Then I got this really gorgeous scrapbook paper, and I'm going to lay that down on top of my heart and then just press from the middle and all the way out to the edges to make sure that it's adhering really well. And then I'm just going to go in with my sanding block and in a downward motion, I'm just going to go ahead and sand around the edges to get the excess paper off. having a little bit of a hard time to get started, but once I got started here, then it went really smooth all the way around. Yep, there we go. Now it's starting. So here you can see it's going really well. And then when I get to the top, I just cut the paper straight across because it was so much. Then I also had to cut a slit that goes down into the tip of the heart, in between. And then you could use that sanding block to make sure that it got sanded nicely to the edge. And here I had added a little gold heart to cover that hole in this interconnected hearts, but I didn't like it, so I took it back off, and that's what you saw me doing here. And here I'm going to give it some hot glue, and then I'm going to lay that down onto my heart with the flower paper on it. Here we go. Then I decided to use one of those little pearl things from the Dollar Tree to cover up that little hanger hole in the um, heart. But I ended up taking that off too. The more I looked at it, the more I was like, yeah, this is not going to work either. So you'll see me taking that off as well here in a little bit. But I am going to use these little pearls to go around the perimeter of the heart. And I like that, how that looked. That really turned out well. And I'm just going to go all the way around, and I'm just using some hot glue. And here I'm going to go in and make a little bow with no tails. And that's what I'm going to add to cover that little hole on my hearts that you can see right there. That was for a hanger, which I'm not going to use. So, but I like this little ribbon heart, I mean, a ribbon bow instead. And here I come with a little bit of scrap ribbon that I had in that ivory satin ribbon. And I'm gonna just cut a small piece off here because I'm gonna need that to tie around that little loop that we made to make the bow. And here we go. And here's that little loop, and I'm gonna fold it in half so I know where the middle is. And I'm just gonna, yeah, kind of press on it right there so it leaves a little dent in it so I know what it is so I can add my little ribbon. And then I'm going to double knot it on the back and then cut off the excess. And then I got my little bow. No tails. And I'm just going to use my pinky again to kind of fluff up the bow on the sides. Oh, no, I'll use my pointer. Typically when it's so small, I would use my pinky. And then I'm just going to add a dab of glue and then press down my bow. Oh, there you go with my pinky. Okay, I thought I did. And then one of the little pearls came off, so I gotta give it a little dab of glue and reattach it. But no problem. And that's what it looks like. Very simple. So let me know what you think about this one as well. I think it's very cute. I like it a lot. And then here we'll take a final look at all 4 projects that I made today. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video with me, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. And if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you. And also, like, comment, and hype my video. It all helps my channel grow. And don't forget to check out the hosts' uh, channel links down in my description box along with the playlist. Until next time.